really sad.
The first of the duo is never shy about letting you know where he stands.
Okay, hot take, but I like your confidence.
The other promises he'll grow on you with time.
It's like a new pair of underwear. At first it's constrictive, but after a while it becomes a part of you.
Together they're bringing you the best in Oklahoma State sports talk and their opinions on sports topics from around the country.
That's right. Listen up. Hey, listen up. You.
Patrick Wheeler.
Let's stomp these dudes.
And Zach Lancaster.
Everyone is stupid except me.
This is the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network.
That's what I'm talking about. Sport! You ain't never heard nothing like this. Let me work. Show me where the mic is. I'm on stage, black shirt and my Timbs. You know how I do it. I ain't playing with you. I've been grinding. Anybody trying to sleep on me, better do something with your eyelids. I hear a lot of whining, but I don't hear a lot of rhyming. Whoa! Everybody got opinions. Let it go into my ear, then I block that. Put me on stage.
It's the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler hanging out with everybody on this Thursday. A lot of good stuff coming up today in the show. The Masters going on as we speak in November. Pretty crazy if you think about it. We knew coming in and previewed a few times earlier this year this was going to be originally really a wild sports weekend. You know, you were going to have the Masters going on all weekend starting today, Thursday night football kicking off tonight, of course, and then, you know, college football on Saturday. LSU Alabama was originally going to highlight everything, and that game has officially been knocked off the schedule thanks to COVID, so that one's off, but you still get college football, and then you still get the NFL on Sunday, so it's a crazy weekend with the final round of the Masters. So should be a lot of fun still. You know, the Masters are it's one of the more exciting, even if you're not a golf fan, there's always excitement in this tournament, especially because you got big-time names in it like Tiger Woods, who is finishing up today just 3 shots back, finished -4. Just 3 shots back of the leader, so he had a really good day. I think that was, last I checked, it was his career best opening round. Yeah, career best opening round, shooting a 68. Trying to defend his title here, obviously, in the Masters. That's a lot of fun to watch him. Tiger Woods, man, when I look at favorite athletes all time, he's certainly up there, and that's saying something for me because I'm not just glued into golf all the time, but man, I really do like Tiger Woods. You always like watching him play, and I'll get to plenty more with Tiger coming up when TJ Eckert joins me again from KTUL News, sports director there. He's got a lot. I know he's a big time Tiger fan, one of the biggest ones I know. So we'll talk to him about that, as well as getting some OSU football, basketball, Tulsa. He covers Tulsa, and it's been an insane football season for them. If anyone's kept up with them, they've had multiple Friday night games. I think their latest one has been moved to Friday, last I saw. So, we think we've had it bad at Oklahoma State a few times. Man, Tulsa's been right there with all the ups and downs in this football season, so that coming up as well. Buy or sell in the second hour. And then later on, probably this hour, early on here, we're going to replay the interview that Tom Dorado got yesterday with Emmanuel Ogbah, and where are they now? It was really good. He even let me squeeze in and ask Emmanuel a question, which I appreciate. Tom letting me butt in on that for a minute. I had to throw in a Chiefs question for him since he did play with Kansas City last year. Was a big part of what they were doing early on defensively. Fortunately, didn't get to play in the Super Bowl due to injury, but I still stand by that stand by the argument that he was a big-time role player for Kansas City last year on the defense. So it was fun to get to ask him a question, obviously dominant here when he played at Oklahoma State, and he's doing really well this year with the Miami Dolphins, so we'll hear from him here a little bit as well. But I want to start off the show with an interesting topic coming out of Dallas. And that's saying something with the way that the Cowboys have been playing this entire season. But I'm going to tell everybody why Dallas is about ready to lock it up with Dak Prescott. Why they're going to come to terms with Dak Prescott. Because that's been it's crazy. That was the initial thought immediately when Dak got hurt. Okay, well, does this mean Dallas won't hold on to him? But think about this. When Dak has this situation happen to him and the way he played, one more thing needed to happen for the Cowboys to basically be ready to give him what he wants. And that was all these replacements, and namely Andy Dalton was going to have to fall flat on his face. But then after that happens, you don't expect Andy Dalton to didn't have to deal with concussion, and then have to deal with COVID. So that gives you a chance to put in 2 more quarterbacks. And the Cowboys have realized that, wow, when this happens, this is something that we cannot afford to ever happen again. And they certainly don't want to have to go back to the drawing board when it comes to that situation at quarterback. When you have Dak Prescott ready to go, he just needs his money, and he wants his years. And the Cowboys are going to come to terms with that. I think at this point they would be crazy to not. There has been, the hottest take so far with Dallas has been, let's just go ahead and let's have them tank, and maybe they'll be in the running for a quarterback in the draft. I don't think that's the goal here, though. There's too many good weapons offensively. Some of the defensive players are coming back, but still pretty terrible on that side. Then they're going to squeeze out a win every now and again. I firmly believe that. So that's kind of out of the question. With that being out of the question, Dak is about to become the guy again. But these replacements have absolutely pushed the argument off the cliff at this point for the Cowboys, because Andy Dalton had a chance, and he blew it the second he stepped out there on the field. Wasn't good. Ben DiNucci, I guess in a way, had a chance to show the Cowboys that maybe they had something there. Also, about as bad of a performance as you can ask. Then you have to throw in Gilbert. Garrett Gilbert actually had the best performance out of maybe those 3 that I just mentioned. And that's pretty shocking. And what's crazy is when you look at the Cowboys this year, we're seeing an actual flip-flop of a few years ago. Back in 2017, when Ezekiel Elliott was dealing with the off-the-field issues and the suspension and was basically fighting the NFL, all that stuff. When that happened, we got to see Dak. We realized that he was not the same without his running back. I remember when that argument was made all season long. It was Dak Prescott cannot play without Ezekiel Elliott out there on the field. He's not the same quarterback when he doesn't have that reliable running back at his disposal. Fast forward 3 years later, when Dak isn't out there, now Zeke has established himself as can't do anything without his quarterback out there. That's exactly what we're dealing with right now. Because as I've mentioned before, the offense is there. The weapons are there. The coaching, problem. The defense, problem. And then not having Dak, problem. So there's a lot of problems that result in a lot of losses this year. But I'm firmly in belief, after what the Cowboys have gone through at the quarterback spot since Dak has been gone, that this has to force them basically to come back and say, you know what? We are going to go with our gut and go with Dak Prescott. If that means emptying some of the bank, fine. Anyone that knows me knows I've said I don't believe that Dak Prescott is a $40 million guy at that position. But at this point, Dallas is going to be ready to feed him whatever he wants. Whatever he wants. Because when he's out there, things start falling into place. They may not still be an elite team, but still, everybody this year wanted to see, with the addition of CeeDee Lamb, with Amari Cooper playing like he has been coming into this season, with Michael Gallup showing promise, and while Zeke is not Zeke still, he's still the guy at times and good enough. And, the continuity between him and Dak Prescott is not changing. So you throw that out there in a season long in the NFC East, you'd still probably be looking at a playoff team right now. I know they were struggling with Dak because of that defense, but when some guys came back healthy, you'd still probably be looking at a playoff team. If the Cowboys have any interest in getting back into the postseason anytime soon, they will sign Dak Prescott. And that's what we're going to see. There's not going to be a huge controversy over it. And then, of course, we get the talk earlier yesterday that Vice President Stephen Jones basically said Dak's our guy. And by him also confirming that right there and saying that statement, that tells me they're ready to wheel and deal. Because it's been a monumental collapse all the way around. And that might even mean that when Dak comes back, Mike McCarthy necessarily might not be back. I think plenty of Cowboys fans would be okay with that with the performance they've seen. But if anyone ever needed to know just how important a quarterback is to a team in the NFL, and not even a top-tier elite one, but one that has been there long enough with the team that everything flows when he goes, now you know. This has been the poster child situation for Dallas. They didn't realize, and maybe this was an awakening for Jerry Jones, but they didn't realize just how important Dak was to the fibers of that team. Not just the product on the field, not just the 400 yards he was slinging around because the defense was non-existent, or the touchdowns, or the extension of plays, but the locker room presence, holding guys like Zeke together. Instead, you've got a guy like Zeke falling apart at the seams, on the field, off the field. The coaching staff doesn't have control. When a coaching staff loses control, who do you think steps up in that situation? When Jason Garrett was constantly getting dogged by the media over and over and over, and everybody ripped him game in and game out, who do you think stepped up for him every single time? His quarterback. Dak Prescott was that buffer between the media, between the scrutiny, between the outside sources, and getting to the head coach. That's how big of a presence, and that's how much he meant to the Dallas Cowboys. When he went down, I think there were plenty of people that thought, okay, this is going to be a bad physical loss on the field. But I'm really not sure how many people understood, unless you're a diehard Dallas fan, unless you understood just how much down the road this was going to cost. Because it was next level. And we saw it the second it happened. And it's changed a lot of people's minds on just how important players are to teams. Certain guys. And this is coming from, I've never been a true 100% believer, as I've said, that Dak is next level elite. But when it comes to personality, when it comes to characteristics, when it comes to the little things that help make a team a winning ball club, things that we don't see as a public, locker room stuff, things that go on in private, those little conversations that keep guys' heads on straight, the vulnerability that Dak Prescott showed this season, right? Opening up about mental health. He's a leader. And I respect the hell out of him for that. For being a leader. If you can manage to be a good quarterback in the NFL, that's one thing. But if you can manage to be a good leader and an elite, or a good player and an elite leader, guess what? That's next level. And that's going to help a team farther down the road, no matter what coaching tries to step in the way. There's always that one constant. And I personally couldn't imagine another year coming up for the Dallas Cowboys with a quarterback carousel. Because if they didn't go with Dak, then it's Andy Dalton, and then how long does that last? How many losses before, and maybe even they're not all his fault, but it doesn't matter. How many losses before it's back to, oh my gosh, to the drawing board, and now we got to go look at third and fourth string, and who knows? And then come the talks of, oh my gosh, the ownership doesn't know what they're doing. Then players start talking. Then coaches start talking. Next thing you know, it's a franchise that everybody's laughing at. Dallas is too close to being that. But the one thing that they can do to make sure that doesn't happen, sometimes a steep price is worth these long-term effects that somebody like Dak Prescott brings to a team. He has taught me this year that the leadership that he provides is right up there with anybody in any sport, anytime. He was America's team, right? They hold that whole mantra up, Dallas is America's team. Well, he was that. He represented all of that. And without him, the gears do not turn in Dallas, and things hit rock bottom. They spiral out of control. Don't let that final score against the Pittsburgh Steelers fool you. Dallas is not a team that's going to hang with anybody relatively good in the National Football League this year. Not with Garrett Gilbert, not with Andy Dalton. They're going to squeeze out a win here and there, maybe against a division opponent, maybe. But they're not going anywhere past that. Not until Dak Prescott puts ink on paper, and the Cowboys plan on doing that this offseason. It's going to happen. So anybody that was a Cowboys fan, now you know. Just get ready, because Dak is still your guy, whether you like it or not. If you don't like him on the field for whatever reason, at least you can like him for his leadership. At least you can like him for his leadership. We come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network. We're going to take a look at what Emmanuel Ogbah had to say yesterday, having a whale of a season with the Miami Dolphins. He sat down with Tom Dorado and myself for a couple minutes there, answered a bunch of our questions. Good stuff coming up from...
You can call till your voice is running out, but I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now. I'm somewhere far away where you can't bring me down, so I can't hear you now. I can't hear you now. Yeah, run it back, tell them what I'm coming at. I was on the shit there, now I'm done with that. Scared of what I didn't want, scared of what I wanted, and thought that I was finished.
Welcome back to the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. I'm Patrick Wheeler here on this Thursday, and joining me now out of KTUL Sports Director TJ Eckert. TJ, man, what's going on?
Pat, what are you doing, man? Are we having a good day so far?
Yeah, man, I'm rocking in here enjoying the Masters, man. I'm telling you, how I know you're in heaven today with that. How crazy is a Masters in November?
Yeah, we were talking about it before we came on. Yeah, I was off work today, so I literally have been on my couch watching the Masters all day long. So it's been perfect. It was weird, leading up to the Masters that it's being in November, but then, when the first tee ball went off today, it felt normal, if that makes sense. You weren't worried about where the calendar was at. It just felt like it was the Masters again.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because, I heard all the promos coming up, watching football, on CBS and stuff, and it's kind of like that Pavlov's dog thing. I hear it and I'm like, well, expecting to look outside and it's nice and warm and it's in spring. And no, it's November, the Masters. It's pretty cool though. I think, and obviously I know you're a big Tiger fan, and he had a pretty good opening round. Yeah,
really a perfect opening round if you're a Tiger fan, in that he always struggles in the opening round, especially at the Masters and really just in golf in general. He always kind of a slow starter. Bogey free as well. I mean, it was never really under too much stress today. He got a little wavered on 10 his first hole of the day, missed a green, but had a sweet chip, got up and down, and then the rest of the day he just kind of was in cruise control. And there's always that adage when you're playing golf that it could have been a little bit better, and you can say the same for Tiger's round today. He hit so many balls within 15, 20 feet, just burned lips all day on his putts. But, shooting 468 for Tiger is great because, like I said, he's such a slow starter. He's won 5 of them, and four of the times, I believe, I'll have to go back and make sure, but 4 of the times he shot 70 to start. So he's already 2 strokes ahead of where he's normally at.
TJ Eckert joining me here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. It's funny because I always say that I don't watch a ton of golf, but anytime I know Tiger's out there, I'm going to stop. He's one of those guys that I'm going to stop what I'm doing and watch him do his thing. There's a few athletes that they've always been in that category, and he's certainly one of them. I think he does about as amazing of a job captivating an audience as anybody in any sport.
Yep, he. There's a saying for premier athletes in sports is that they're the needle for whatever sport they're talking about, but or they move the needle, I guess you should say. Mm-hmm. And for golf, Tiger is the needle. He's not moving the needle. He is the needle. Wherever Tiger's at, people are going to watch, just like you said. And casual golf fans will tune in for the Zozo Championship in the middle of October because Tiger's playing, and people will obviously tune in because it's the Masters, but the viewership is so high. And, it's funny on Twitter, the big deal nowadays is TV rating. You'll see it,
yes.
The weekend after the Memorial, people will say, especially like this year, Tiger played in the Memorial. This Memorial, the highest ratings for the Memorial since 2016, which would coincide with the last time Tiger played in the tournament or whatever the case may be. So it's very evident that when Tiger plays, people tune in.
So what are you giving him chance-wise to repeat? And if it's not him that gets it done, who's your guy that you have winning?
So I felt like coming in, everybody complained about the form he was in and that he didn't look healthy and all that. And I said, look, he can roll out of bed and shoot, 10 under at Augusta and contend. It's just that course for him. He knows it so well. It's so much about experience. He's had such great success there, and so I felt like he would be able to contend, or, some people were saying he wasn't going to make the cut. I never thought that. He was always going to make the cut, in my opinion. Whether he was going to win or not, I wasn't sure. But after watching him today, that's the best I've seen him play since he won the Masters last year. I mean, irons were just spot on. Like I said, the putter was rolling really well. The driver, which has been an issue throughout the year, the tournaments he's played in, looked great today. So I think he has a leaderboard right now. The thing is, especially since it's round one, it's a packed leaderboard.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of guys up there, and the group of guys that are up there are all heavyweights in golf right now. I mean, Xander Schauffele, Dustin Johnson, so many of these guys. Bryson DeChambeau didn't play very well today, and he still shot 2 under. So there's just so many big name guys up there, and he's going to have to play well all 4 rounds to contend and win. But I give him just as good a chance as anybody else. I picked, Patrick, I picked Rory to win when the week started, and I think he's like 1 over through 6. So he'll have to get going a little bit. But there's just Justin Thomas was 4 under through 5 last I saw. There's just the names just keep going on and on and on. So it's a fun leaderboard, and it seems like all the same guys generally contend here.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well, and you mentioned Bryson DeChambeau. How about him saying that it's like a par 67 for him? It is what he was talking about, and then he comes out here and he's what, 5 shots back?
Yeah, he shoots 70, so he shot 2 under on the actual course, but apparently he shot 3 over on his own course. So.
Oh man, hey, Augusta will humble anybody. We know that.
No doubt.
So for the Masters, for the tournament in general, where would you rank it for you personally in terms of sporting events like that you enjoy watching, like World Series, Super Bowl, NCAA tournament? Where does the Masters fall in for you?
It's a good question. In terms of golf rating, it's at the top.
Yeah.
I love watching the Masters, and I love watching the Open Championship. Those are 2 of my favorites to watch, and the U.S. Open just because I like watching carnage. But as far as sporting events in general, that's a good question. Honestly, it's either at the top or second. I mean, I love watching like college football national championships. I like watching the Rose Bowl. I think those 2 games, either they coincide with the national championship or not, I think those 2 games are always a ton of fun to watch. I'm not a huge professional, I'm not a big NBA guy. I'm not a huge NFL guy. So the Super Bowl and the NBA Finals don't captivate me like these do. So I mean, it doesn't matter what I'm doing. When the Masters is on, I'm going to watch it. There's not very many sporting events that are on TV that I can say that for. So right off the top of my head right now, I think the Masters is at the top of my list.
TJ Eckert joined me here from KTUL, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. So let's take a look at some college football here. And Oklahoma State obviously gets the week off. And then OU, is coming around the corner. It's Bedlam coming around the corner, so it should be a fun one. But before we get to that here, I know you're a big guy. So how about OSU finally offering Braylon Presley?
Yeah, how about that, right? You think, we all say should have been sooner, and I get all that. I mean, his brother plays at OSU, Brennan's there,
yeah.
So you think the family connection would have brought an offer sooner, but I mean, who could have flipped on ESPN last Thursday night when Bixby was playing on national TV and not offered Braylon Presley?
No
I mean,
joke.
The kid was just electric, and I tweeted it a few times during the game. This is what we've been watching from Braylon, honestly, since last year. I mean, even when Brennan was there as a senior, Brennan was the best player in the state last year, and Braylon was probably second best. I mean, it was that close. Braylon is he's electrifying, and I get it. I've talked to a few people about this. He's small. He's playing running back right now. He probably projects as more of a wide receiver type guy in college, so it's kind of hard to see that sometimes when you're watching him play tailback. But the guy is just uber talented. He's by far and away the best player on the field every time he's out there. They played Union early in the season, and A.J. Green's the tailback for Union. He's going to Arkansas, and Braylon dwarfed A.J. A.J.'s a great player. He's incredible talent. I mean, he's an SEC running back. But Braylon is just so electric. Every time he touches the ball, he can score. He's just one of those guys. And people were worried. Can he play receiver in college? And how's his route running? Well, he ran a pretty sweet route on a 95-yard touchdown against Booker T on national TV. So I think a lot of questions got answered. And OSU is not going to be his last offer.
Sure. Will
it be his favorite offer? Maybe so. I don't know. I don't know where he stands on all that, but he should, in my opinion, pick up a ton more offers, especially because of that ESPN game.
Yeah, everybody loves that national exposure, no doubt. And then, of course, Brennan Presley gets a chance to get in the end zone for the first time against Kansas State. That was cool to see too, right?
Yeah, what a weekend for the Presley family, huh?
Yeah.
Brennan scores his first touchdown. Braylon shows out on national TV. Their sister is at Ole Miss, and she set a bunch of records, track and field records there as a freshman. Last year, 2 years ago, I lose track of time, but just an incredibly athletic family, and I'm sure it was a lot of fun for them to watch that. And I know as a Bixby Spartan myself, it was fun to watch as well.
Yeah, for sure. TJ Eckert joining me here in the afternoon sports drive. So with Oklahoma State against Kansas State, in that game, I couldn't believe it. So I got to ask you, could you believe how out of sync that offense looked with no Tylan Wallace on the field?
It's surprising, and normally you expect, like we saw in the Tulsa game, the very first game of the season, you expect an offense to be out of sync when your quarterback's gone. Mm-hmm. That's a given. But when a playmaker's gone, you generally have guys that will fill in and step up and make plays, and that's not to say they didn't, but in a similar way to Braylon, Tylan is a home run hitter. He can score every time he touches the ball as well. And so when you take a guy like that out of your offense, it kind of takes away your big play threat. And it honestly played right into the hands of Kansas State. They already don't allow many big plays to begin with, but then when you don't have a big play guy, there's not a threat for that, and you're basically just playing into the strength of their defense. And so it was surprising, I guess, but anytime you pull out one of the best players in the country at a certain position, there's going to be some discombobulation. And so it's not as flashy as the way OU's winning games right now, but OSU is finding a way to do it, and that's what good teams do. When you don't have your best, you don't have your best players, you don't have your best game, you don't have, you're out of sync on offense, you just find ways to win, and they're doing that right now. It's ugly, and fans may not like that, but whatever they are, 6-1, 7-1 is a lot better than if they're 4-3 or whatever the case might be. Yeah,
that's a great point. It was an ugly win, but a win's a win, and I think it's just been a while since I've seen, you kind of hit on it there, a non-QB affect an offense so much. That's when he's not out there, it's usually, like you said, runs through the quarterback. But man, Tylan, when he's not out there, that just the whole offense looked a step behind. So Bedlam coming up. And I need some predictions here from you. You don't have to give me the winner if you don't want. You can, but I know it's a little early. But first of all, in terms of this game, are you expecting a somewhat of a defensive battle? There's going to be a lot of points here.
Honestly, and I talked about this with some friends earlier in the week, I think OU is playing at such a high level right now, and OSU is still trying to find their way. Mm-hmm. And granted, it was against Kansas and Texas Tech, so they're not beating world beaters out there, but they're just playing at such a high level. They're getting guys back. They're healthy, which is kind of the opposite direction of where OSU is going. They still got guys banged up. They're not playing their best football right now. They're finding ways to win, but in order to beat really good teams, you have to play good football. And so I'm hoping that like Chuba and Tylan and all these playmakers can be healthy going into the game, because I think it's a fairly decent matchup. I don't think it's going to be a 24-21, like you're saying, a defensive game, like you were asking. I think it'd be, if OSU is going to win, I think that's what they kind of have to keep it down to. I don't know if they can hold OU to that few of points, especially with how much they're rolling right now.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say that OU is going to win in a blowout, but Vegas right now I think had it like 13.5 or 12.5. I don't know what it opened at. And I wouldn't feel confident picking OU in that, because it's such a, Bedlam's such a weird game sometimes. But I do think right now that OU is playing better football and are hotter, and I would be more confident picking OU over OSU right now at this point.
Yeah, you would need all the weapons certainly back on the field for Oklahoma State, and that not just back on the field but healthy, because you know as well, that if they start that way like they did against Kansas State, they might not be coming back against Oklahoma.
Right.
It's just tough. We know against the way that the offense has been running, and that brings me to my next question for you is, with the offense that OU has out there right now, what have you thought about Spencer Rattler and his progression this season?
I think he has certainly progressed. I really didn't think he played that great of a game against Kansas. I thought he forced a lot of balls. I think it was like he tried to force himself to get into a rhythm at times. And I've said it before about Rattler, is he is kind of that gunslinger. He is kind of similar to a Baker Mayfield in that he's going to make throws where you're like, what are you thinking? And so there's going to be times where he does that, but there's going to be times where he completes them, and it's like, okay, that's just what he does. But there were just a few times where either to me, it looked like he was confused on reads, or was trying to force feed people, and a lot of his throws were into contested coverage, double coverage, or to guys where the defender had a better chance of making a play on it than his receiver did. So that game was a kind of a blip for me. I think he's progressed as the season's gone along. I still think, one, he's a freshman, so he's going to make freshman mistakes.
Yeah.
But two, the one thing that I would like to see improve more of is his ball security when he's in the pocket or when he's trying to be mobile. He kind of swings it a little bit when he's running. He's not as secure with the ball in the pocket as I'd like him to be. And for how many times he's gotten hit and the ball's come out, I would think he would have learned and gotten a little better at that, because that's something you can improve on through experience. Just like playing quarterback position as well, but especially getting hit and fumbling the ball. That's something that you should kind of learn from as the season goes on. I mean, it's part of the reason why he got pulled against Texas. So I'm hoping to see that change a little bit, or teams can continue to take advantage of that. I mean, he put the ball on the ground against Kansas as well. He got strip sacked. Luckily, OU recovered. But, OSU's defense can get after you, and if that's something that he continues to struggle with, it's something that OSU can certainly take advantage of.
TJ Eckert joining me here on the Afternoon Sports Drive. And I know you play QB, and so with you actually, having some knowledge of the position and being in those situations, it brings up an interesting idea and a topic, because there's been a lot of talk so far. I know you've probably seen it too, about Spencer Sanders. It's when do we give him that cutoff where it's like, okay, we're no longer going to put the excuse that he doesn't have all the experience out there. It's going to have to be, man, you got to hold on to the football. You got to make smarter decisions. You got to have more pocket awareness. And you kind of just mentioned the same stuff a little bit with Spencer, and that comes with guys being young. But from your experience and what you know at that spot, how long is it before maybe even coaches and the team is kind of on that boat too, where they're like, no more of this whole, you haven't had the experience type thing. It's you got to buck up and be QB1 right now.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, Pat. There's only a certain amount of times where you can get hit, drop the ball, and lose it, that coaches continue to say, well, you're just not experienced enough yet. And granted, I think he's a sophomore on the field, but he hasn't played enough games to truly be considered a sophomore yet. He maybe just now getting into a sophomore season in terms of games played, right. I guess you could say. So, I got asked this a while back, and in my opinion, I just think Sanders is the more talented quarterback right now, which is why they're rolling with him instead of pulling the plug and going to Illingworth. Mm-hmm. I think he does have more experience. He needs to get more experience as well. It's one of those things that you don't know if you truly trust Illingworth to throw him in there in the meat of the schedule. Putting him in against Texas, putting him in on the road against Kansas State in a tight game, throwing him in against Bedlam. You trust the little experience that Sanders has and hope that the experience he does gain from those games will only help him to improve. But you're right. I mean, it's got to be frustrating for Cowboy fans to see the ball constantly on the ground and to see what Illingworth was able to do when he got that time. To me personally, I think that Sanders gives them the best chance to win right now, which is why they're not switching positions. If Illingworth was a redshirt sophomore or, had played more before Sanders was able to come back, maybe the discussion's a little different, but I simply think that they just think Sanders is the quarterback that gives them the best chance to win. And I agree with them right now. If you were to ask me this question next year or 2 years down the road, I may have a different answer for you. But I think Sanders right now gives them the best chance to win, and it would take something drastic like him continuing to throw bad interceptions. That's the thing, too, is he's only – the one I saw against Texas, he threw it behind his receiver. That happens. That wasn't a forced throw. That wasn't a bad read. That was a good read and a poor ball. We can live with those as quarterbacks and as quarterback coaches. What we can't live with is what you're talking about, getting sacked and the ball coming out, or forcing balls into double coverage, or, lack of ball security in the pocket, or lack of ball security when you're running. That's the stuff we can't live with on a continual basis. So if that stuff continues, I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe looking towards Illingworth a little bit more. But as long as he can be a little more secure in the pocket, like I said with Rattler, then I think he's the one that gives him the best chance to win.
Yeah, I'm with you on that too, and a lot of it probably has to do with his ability to be an escape artist on the ground. But I'm so glad you hit on that with the turnovers, because that's something that I preached with with Spencer this entire season. Was there's never a good turnover, but there are certainly turnovers that are way worse than others. And it's just like you mentioned there. You can live with a pick every now and again, but some of the ones that we can dissect and say, okay, who would have thrown that football, honestly, or something like that. And
exactly right.
Yeah, and it's just a completely different scenario. So I'm glad you hit on that. But you were at the OU game last weekend, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, how was the atmosphere there with it not being able to be packed out?
So I've only been to 2 of the OU games so far, and they're probably not the best examples. But I guess they've only had 3. I went to Missouri State, and I went to Kansas. And Missouri State was the opener, so that was nice. It was a little more rowdy, but then it was only rowdy for a quarter and a half.
Yeah.
Then people left, and it was kind of the same thing with Kansas. So when it's a good game, it's certainly not like a normal Saturday. Like Bedlam in 2018, when it was there in Norman, I think it was 2018, right? With that went down to the last play. Mm-hmm. They went for 2 there in Norman. OSU did. Yeah, that was 2018.
Yeah.
It won't be anything like that. I mean, that was rowdy. It was so loud that you couldn't hear yourself think on the field. It won't be anything like that. There is somewhat of a crowd advantage, I guess you could say, early in the game. I could sense that against Kansas. I mean, the crowd was getting fired up for third downs, big plays on offense. So it's still nowhere near what a normal Saturday crowd in Norman would sound like. And so I think that plays into the hands of OSU a little bit, in that you don't have to worry about, not being able to hear yourself on the field. But there is certainly some noise there whenever they want to have noise, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah, no, I'm just thrilled to see that there's any fans anywhere, because there was a point, multiple points this offseason that we didn't know that was ever going to happen. So it's got to be good to see.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask you too about Tulsa football real quick, because I know their season has just been nuts. With everything kind of twisting and turning on them schedule wise. I think, if I'm correct, their latest game has been moved, and it's been multiple Friday games too, right?
Yeah, so they've played 4 games. They're 3-1, and they've looked really good when they've played. But of the 7 games that they should have played going into this week would be their 8th game. I'm sorry, I should say they've had 7 games moved, and they're supposed to have played 8 games by now. So every game pretty much that they've played has gotten affected. They've played 2 games that were on schedule essentially at this point in the season. So, and you're right. So you asked about the game against Cincinnati was on Saturday, December 5th, I believe, and now it's the day before on a Friday. And so there's 8 games currently on the schedule. If Navy gets rescheduled, that'd be 9. But right now there's 8, and they've played 4 games already. So of the 8 games total on the schedule, half of them would be on weeknights. So they've had 4 games on Thursdays or Fridays, and then they'll have 4 on Saturdays. So it's just a completely crazy schedule. They've had at least 2 games that I can remember that have gotten postponed on the Thursday of game week, which is just nuts.
Sure.
And it's been tough on them, because you spend all week preparing and getting hyped up for a game, only to have the rug dragged out from underneath you on Thursday or Friday, and it's just it can be tough. And Philip Montgomery's talked a lot about it, how the teams handle it and how well they've handled it. It was funny after the first game, and I'm trying to remember who they were supposed to play early in the season that got moved. I can't remember exactly who. It may have been the Cincinnati game at the very first time it got moved. They were supposed to play Cincinnati. I think on Thursday it got canceled or postponed to December. And when we asked the players about it, they said that they were really pissed off, and one kid said he threw his phone. They were really aggravated. That was early in the season. And then last week, Navy gets postponed, and we asked them the same question this week, and they said, well, we just kind of know how to handle it now. We just move on to the next one. So you can see the progression and the mental progression and how they're handling it each and every week. And so that was something I was impressed with. And they've looked good. That Tulsa win for OSU looks a lot better right now than I'm sure it did to OSU fans on the Monday after the game.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. People have looked back on that and said, hey, that was a pretty good football team there. So I'm going to look at OSU basketball with you real quick, too, because with Cade being named, Cade Cunningham gets named to the preseason All-American team yesterday. But I want to get what your real expectations are for Cade Cunningham this year. We know it's going to be his only year, most likely, in college basketball. So what are you expecting out of him?
It's hard because I've seen some film on him, and other than that, all I've heard is just people oohing and awing over him, like Coach Boynton and all those guys and all the recruiters, and that's all I've heard. And so expectations are through the roof, obviously, and apparently that's what everybody else in the country thinks as well. This kid's just going to be almost a transcendent star. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping he looks like what he did in high school, in that he wasn't just a ball-dominant guy that wanted to take every shot. He was very much a shooter first, obviously, because he's an elite player, but he was very good at distributing as well. And there's so many good players on this OSU roster that he doesn't have to do everything. And I think he understands and realizes that. And if he can be a distributor, this team is dangerous. I mean, there is so much talent on this team, and Coach Boynton's done such a great job of developing talent that he is going to be the guy, but he doesn't have to be, he doesn't have to go out and score 35 a game. He doesn't have to be Trae Young for this team, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Trae was a transcendent talent, but he felt like he had to do every single thing for that Sooner basketball team. Cade does not have to be that guy. There are plenty of guys that can help him. He just needs to be the leader and the one who steps up and makes the plays. Now, I expect him to be, especially assuming it's his only year, I expect him to go all out. I mean, I would think that's what he plans on doing, and that's what's exciting. And what's crazy is there's so much expectations around him, but right now the expectations around the team aren't that high. Where were they picked? 6th in the Big 12 or
7th? Yeah.
Yeah, 7th in the Big 12. They weren't ranked in the AP Top 25, which I get. You know, they haven't done anything.
Right.
These are unknown players, but the respect given to Cade was not given to Oklahoma State. And so I think they'll play with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Boynton's teams seem to always do that anyway. And then adding Cade into the mix, knowing this is probably his only season, he's going to play hard every single night. It's going to be a fun Oklahoma State basketball team to watch. Oh,
absolutely. And with that being said, you know, do you think that Oklahoma State ever breaks into the top 25 at some point this year? Absolutely. Yeah, I do. I think they're uber talented. They do have a handful of players with experience coming back. And Coach Boynton, I'm his biggest fan. I'll say it on here so all of my biases are aside. I am an OU fan. I grew up an OU fan, but right. I am a giant Mike Boynton fan. One of my favorite coaches in college basketball, if not my favorite. He just does an awesome job, and I trust everything that he does. And so the team he's put together and the guys that he has coming back and the talent that he has coming back, I don't see any reason for them not to crack the top 25 this year. Final thing I want to ask you here real quick. I know since, like you said, you're an OU guy, and looking into the NFL, one of them that's standing out the most this season is Kyler Murray again. Yeah. He is just so fun to watch with that Cardinals team and the way that they used him. And I want to get your thoughts on what he's done so far this season. And also, I mean, can you see him? I think at this point he's kind of demanding a little bit of maybe some MVP talk here too. Absolutely. To answer your first question, it's crazy. We talked about last year. We talked about Lamar Jackson all the time and how well he played in an MVP season. I think if you take Lamar and put him on another team and not in that Harbaugh system, he's not the player that he is. Mm-hmm. I think if you take Kyler out of Arizona, he's still a really solid NFL quarterback. Sure. I think Cliff Kingsbury, I think he is magnifying his abilities right now, but I think that Kyler can go into other systems and operate and still be a functional NFL quarterback. He has surpassed, I think, everybody's expectations other than maybe himself. And I think you're right. I think I tweeted it last weekend. If he's not in your MVP discussion right now, you're wrong. I mean, the numbers he's putting up right now and the amount of plays he makes, he was not the reason they lost that game to Miami. Not at all. I mean, he was dominant. He's almost unstoppable. I mean, he's making grown and incredible athletes in the NFL look ridiculous every Sunday. I mean, it's amazing some of the moves he makes on some of these guys. And he's the thing that people were so worried about, well, he's small and is he going to last durably? Well, he's running the ball a lot. I mean, he is carrying the ball a lot for Kingsbury, and he is so far shown that he's been able to hold up. And him being short, sure, I think he maybe misses a few throws here and there, but he's got such an elite arm and such an awareness about him that it hasn't really shown up yet that him being short has been an issue. So I think Russell Wilson right now is in the front of the MVP discussion. I think I can't really, unless you can name someone off the top of your head. I think Tyler's in second. He certainly is. I think still a little bit. Last week he didn't do him any favors when he turned it over 4 times. And believe it or not, Patrick Mahomes is sneaking back up there pretty quietly. That's true. And Aaron Rodgers, I think, no doubt. But yeah, Kyler Murray, he put up 100 rushing yards. Last week. That's a quarterback doesn't do that. It's insane. No. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for me, you named the 4 guys, and I think right now Wilson, like you said, kind of hurt himself turnovers last week. But I think he's the only reason they're 6-2 or whatever they are. Mm-hmm. I mean, they would be nothing without him. And I think Kyler's second just based on pure numbers and the fact that the Arizona Cardinals have lost 3 games this year, which is nuts. Yeah, they and it's really been there've been some close ones too, man. Like you said, with exactly. You give it up to a kicker last week, that should have been a win. So no doubt. I mean, he's so fun to watch, and then there's obviously it was a cool day last Sunday because you got James Washington scoring a touchdown, and you had Emmanuel Ogbah obviously strip sack Kyler Murray. There was that too. So guys all over the place that are going to be it's kind of a bedlam representation in the NFL. Yeah. So CeeDee Lamb scored last week as well. So lots of good bedlam show out. There you go, TJ. Always appreciate your time. Thanks for taking some out on your day off. Always good when we get to catch up, and appreciate it. And I hope we get to see some red shirt Tiger on Sunday. Absolutely, Pat. That sounds great. Appreciate you, man. All right, that's TJ Eckert. You can follow him on Twitter at TJ Eckert, KTUL. Appreciate his time as always. When we come back, we'll round out hour number 1. Take a look at what's going on in college football this weekend because there's been a number of games that are now no longer on the schedule. Why is that? We'll talk about that next. I don't wanna wait. Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. I'm rounding out this first hour here pretty quickly. And take a look at these SEC games that are no longer on the schedule. It kind of all hit at once for the SEC. They have Texas A&M, Tennessee, Auburn, Mississippi State, Mizzou, and Georgia, and then obviously the big one is LSU, Alabama. Now, it wouldn't have been that much of an issue anyways, I don't think, this year. I mean, it's always a good rivalry and it's fun to watch. But the way LSU has played and the way Alabama has played, conversely, this game might not have been close either way. So that one will probably not even be made up because LSU had to get a game scheduled on December 12th against Florida already. So we may not see that one. But obviously COVID being the reason, and mainly what you're getting now is contact tracing are taking a lot of players out of these games, not so much as a fluctuation, just a ton of cases, really. But contact tracing is really dominating this one right now. And so that's the SEC. And I'm not even going to look that closely at the Pac-12 and their issues right now, the Big Ten either. Because these conferences were basically doomed from the start with their ridiculous rules and how long it took them to actually give the green light to play. So I'm not even going to look at that. They doomed themselves. I feel bad for the players and the teams, but their conferences can thank them for that. And it's a bunch of asymptomatic cases. That's the good thing. Is that there's no proof right now or evidence that any of these players are major suffering from this, which is always good. But you look back at where we're talking about and where this came from. Well, in Halloween weekend. I mean, plain and simple. No, you got guys and going out and partying, especially with teams that have no reason to basically be playing at this point other than to play. Right, a team like an LSU that has nothing's going on for them anymore, and of course they're going to get some people that are saying, what, we're going out Halloween weekend. We're going to go out there, and the females are dressed up and they're looking good, and we're going to party. And we know that's going to come with a few cases, and I just don't think that some of these players care. And at this point, I mean, whatever, you know what's going to happen if you do test positive, and ultimately it could lead to games being canceled. So I do want to reiterate the point that the main focus should be not necessarily on these canceled games, but that the SEC has basically got all these games in for the most part. They've done a great job. 85% of these games have been played so far. It's pretty good. It's pretty good in the COVID era, right? I think you take that. So for anyone that just simply focuses on that, I promise you're not looking at the bigger picture there. We come back on the Afternoon Sports Drive in hour number 2. Buy or sell coming up. I'll tell you what I learned, obviously, coming up too. And it was funny there because TJ brought up a really good point about Lamar Jackson that I want to look on. Thursday Night Football tonight, Colts and Titans. Break that down as well. All still to come in hour number 2 of the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Whoa.
Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, hour number 2.
Watching as I fall somewhere down below. Maybe I'm just falling to get somewhere they want.
Patrick Wheeler hanging out on this Thursday. It's a fun Thursday, man. We're kicking off Masters. The Masters is just so fun to watch. I mean, it's one of the, and to put it in November, I don't know, I like it. I like the whole fall vibe on Augusta type thing. I'm here for it. Right now, leading the way, Paul Casey. He shot a 65 today, finished 7 under. So he's out there in front. Webb Simpson is right behind him at 5 under. Tiger, as I was talking about earlier, finished 4 under on the day and tied his personal best for an opening round. Looked really good. So I can't wait to watch more of him this weekend, no doubt. A lot of good stuff coming out of the Masters here in this first day of action on November 12th. Maybe the only time in anybody's lifetime that we see the Masters at this date, and hopefully it is the only time in anybody's lifetime for this reason, too, right? As it get rescheduled because of COVID. So a lot of good stuff to get in here in hour number 2. Take a look at this Thursday Night Football matchup. It's actually a pretty good one. This is back-to-back weeks with decent Thursday night matchups, at least on the schedule. We know that last week's didn't turn into it because the Niners are not the same team that was scheduled to be there against the Packers. But this one has promised to be a lot more competitive and should be a fun ball game all the way around in the AFC with the Colts and the Titans. But before we do anything and get deep into that conversation, we got to start off hour number 2. With this.
Are you buying?
I'd buy that for $1.
Or are you selling?
You'll pick up the phone and you'll sell.
This is Buy or Sell on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Make money, make money.
Buy or Sell, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network, Patrick Wheeler. Kind of holding down the ship still, by the way, in case anyone's like, where the heck did Zach Lancaster go? Well, he's still not feeling well, so it's just me this week. But a lot of good stuff nonetheless. And we're going to get going with Buy or Sell. I think one of the first ones that's pretty interesting to look at here for Thursday night as well is anytime the Titans play, we know there's a lot of interest in just watching Derrick Henry run dudes over, or the potential that he's going to stiff arm against anybody. And not just stiff arm, but stiff arm them into the next century like he did Josh Norman earlier in the season. Man, that was awesome. So buy or sell that Derrick Henry runs over 100 yards against the Indianapolis Colts tonight. I think we saw him get bottled up last time he played against the Chicago Bears. They're very good defense all the way around. Their offense is just horrible, but the defense is really good, and they held him to 68 yards on the ground. That's kind of the thing you get with Derrick Henry. Is the Titans' offensive line is not next level, so when they run into a really tight defense, he can sometimes even be a tough fantasy play in games like that because he is such a hard-nosed runner between the tackles that if there's no inside leverage against those defenses, it's hard for him to get much space to work with and get a lot of yards on the ground. But this is a Colts team that's pretty good defensively. Mainly, though, they're good at stopping the pass. The run defense has been susceptible some this year. Obviously, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens found a way to get it going there in that second half last week. It wasn't so much the first half, but the second half. So do I buy that he goes over 100 yards? Yeah, you know what? I think he has a great Thursday night game. I think this is a Titans team that when they get back on track, it starts with Derrick Henry. Ryan Tannehill's going to fall in. And it's funny because what's so great about the Titans and why they're so fun to watch is they're a team that doesn't have a ton of huge names and they still get it done. You know, you've got guys like Corey Davis and A.J. Brown out there, but man, they're guys that are making plays. You know, Humphreys as well receiving the football. And then Ryan Tannehill. Not these like huge, big-time superstar guys, but they're still one of the more competitive teams in football because they found a way to get that system working under Mike Vrabel, and they're a lot of fun to watch. So I'm going to buy that he goes over 100 yards on the ground against the Colts tonight, but I don't necessarily buy that it's an extreme over 100. I'll give it just slightly, about 107 to 110 yards on the ground tonight from Derrick Henry. Buy or sell, sticking with Thursday Night Football, that Phillip Rivers goes over 2 total touchdowns. Phillip Rivers, he was really, really fun to watch through the prime of his career. At least I thought so. When he was with San Diego and then Los Angeles, and they turned into the Los Angeles Chargers, because he always found a way to. He was the artist of. Still, when he was able to throw deep down the field, he could still dink and dunk you to death, and it was annoying if you were a defense, but it was good enough to get the job done. And he had running backs that could catch the ball, he had tight ends that could catch the ball, and that's where they feasted. There wasn't a ton of huge, wide receivers that were all over making plays for the Chargers because big deep threats didn't fit in that offense. So he was fun to watch then. But now this year, there's been, I think I can count the number of times on my hand that he has made a above average play through the air. And that's saying something right there. I mean, because he used to be so good, but he's a burden to the Colts. I still think that to be the case. He is a burden to the Colts. They are lucky that the defense is playing like they are and the run game has been like it has been, because if not, they would be in a world of trouble with Phillip Rivers as their quarterback. I didn't really know what they were thinking over the offseason. They didn't like Jacoby Brissett. But was Phillip Rivers really going to be an upgrade at this point in his career? I mean, really. The guy he's washed up. And I don't think that's a hot take. I think that's just a fact. He's washed up. So I'm going to go ahead and sell that. I think he only manages one touchdown through the air. And if anything else, you're going to get maybe a defensive score, and you have to rely on those running backs to get the job done. There's buy or sell here on this Thursday. A really interesting topic that TJ Eckert hit on when he was on with me. Now, I brought up the Kyler Murray situation because he's so fun to watch in the NFL, and he kind of compared him a little bit there to Lamar Jackson. Well, Lamar Jackson comes out today and made some headlines for what he said, talking about that he believes and has seen that defenses are able to call out what the Ravens are going to get ready to run on offense, and says that they're being predictable. Was this a shot at the offensive coordinator? Was this a shot at Harbaugh? I don't know. But I think it is something that you have to monitor. You don't ever like it when your quarterback decides to come out and claim that the offense is really predictable. But it's really not that hard. I mean, Lamar Jackson is right. It's not complicated at this point. The Ravens are going to run the football. They are 31st in the league in passing this year. 31st. The last year they were number 2 in scoring. It's nowhere near this year. Defenses and coordinators in the NFL are smart for the most part. You'll run into a team a la the Jets or the Cowboys, for instance, that are just going to get shredded, or the Seahawks every time they come out. But a lot of defenses and defensive coordinators in the NFL are smart. They adapt quickly, even to MVPs like Lamar Jackson. The Ravens are going to run the football. They're not scared of his arm. And TJ brought up the point that, you know what? If he was removed out of Harbaugh world there in Baltimore, he wouldn't succeed. And if Kyler was removed, he would still find a way because he's that good. I have to agree. Now, Lamar Jackson is lucky to be in this system, but even now we're seeing that he can't throw the ball as well as people want him to. That's why when you look at Kyler Murray, he's the rich man's Lamar Jackson. He's the one that delusional Ravens fans want Lamar Jackson to be. Or delusional sports anchors or what have you in the media that can't stop praising Lamar Jackson for what he's done in Baltimore. Take a look at what Kyler Murray's doing. He's what everybody that thinks Lamar Jackson is so great, he's what they want out of him. They think that that's him, but it's not. It's not. And it's really interesting just to compare, when you look at the Ravens, compare them to Kansas City. Because it's kind of flipped for the defenses that face Kansas City. They come in and know that they don't really have to respect the run game all that much. There's talented running backs on the Chiefs, but they know that they're hardly going to run it. They can focus on Patrick Mahomes. And that's complete opposite from Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. Defenses know we're going to bottle up the run and force them to beat us with their arm, and most of the time it's not going to happen. Difference for Kansas City is Patrick Mahomes can find a way to beat it. Lamar Jackson can't. He's averaging around 27 pass attempts per game. And when I talked about that matchup with the Colts last week, he looked terrible against the Colts in the first half. Looked lost out there. Came back and had a good second half. But he can't start off with that kind of slow action against really good teams. And he's not being able to beat the best teams in the league. 2 losses come from the Steelers and the Chiefs this year. That tells you right there that the Ravens are not quite there yet to be able to beat the best teams in the league. He can't play from behind. You know? And then saying all this is not me hating on Lamar Jackson. It's me explaining to everybody that, one, the Ravens have to be a better passing team if they want to advance. If the Ravens want to win a playoff game, they got to be able to throw the ball more. Plain and simple. The NFL is not a run-heavy league. We know that. And it can't be reversed back to it. You got to be able to throw the football more. And 2, don't be fooled by anybody saying Lamar Jackson is the best player or the best quarterback in the NFL. He just simply isn't. And anybody that says that has not watched his game. I think he's an incredible athlete. I think the sky is the limit. But until he can consistently get the arm go out, and maybe part of it's the passing game, right? Maybe part of it is the coaching and the passing game. I don't know if he's necessarily being held back, but something's got to change. Because when I look in Baltimore, I think there's some major issues that are trying to get to the surface. You get QB talk like Lamar Jackson. You get the play on the field at times. Next thing you know, things start imploding. And I think the Ravens have too good of a system and too promising of a system to need this to rear its ugly head here. So something has to be done before it all explodes. If we go back at the end of this season and look at what the Ravens, where they finished, if I'm right, then we know what we have to blame here. It's a really volatile mixture of Lamar Jackson not being able to be consistent throwing the ball. Now he's talking about the offense. Now the team is all jumbled up, deciding which side they should choose. Not good. That doesn't result in winning, and it certainly doesn't result in winning playoff games. But make no mistake about it, Kyler Murray is the rich man's Lamar Jackson. He is what everybody wants Lamar Jackson to be. If you want to go out there and watch an exciting young QB, I know he's from Oklahoma. Try to put that past him. Because what he's doing in the NFL, my goodness, fun to watch. Really fun to watch. When we come back here on the afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network, we're going to take a listen into Emmanuel Ogbah. I lied. I said we were going to do it in the first hour. We're actually going to do it here in the second hour. Thought his interview was great with Tom Dorado yesterday. A lot of good stuff. We'll hear what he had to say. And then to round out the show, I'm going to tell you what I learned on this Masters opening Thursday. All to come on the afternoon sports drive on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network with Patrick Wheeler. We're back after this.
Feel like I'm gonna puke, cause my taxes are due. Do my best, we'll begin with a 1 or a 2. Been a hell of a ride, but I'm thinking it's time to grow.
Metronome.
Man, I'm up to something. Thank you.
Back to the afternoon sports drive here on the Triple Play Sports Radio Network with Patrick Wheeler. Forgot that I didn't even give my pick there for the Thursday night football game. I'm going Titans. I like Tennessee in this one. Levi also going Titans. They've stumbled a couple times this year, but they're still a really fun team, and I think they take it over the Colts if you're going head-to-head here. Thursday night, man, it's just so – Thursday night football is hard to pick sometimes. It really shows what happens when you get teams on a short week. And the best teams can overcome it sometimes, but man, you don't get a lot of time to rest up. Not easy to pull one off, but going with the Titans, they come in, by the way, as a 1-point underdog in this game. So betting advice, if you want to put some down, I like the Titans +1. Even if the Colts win, the Titans should cover that. The total at 48.5. Ah, man, I always like to get the unders on Thursday night. But you know what? I think there's a lot of scoring in this game. Give me the over of 48.5 in this one, too. There's your betting advice for tonight with Thursday night football. Well, yesterday, Emmanuel Ogbah got a chance to come on and talk with Tom Dorado. Where are they now? Had a lot of good stuff, and he's had a really fun season to watch. And really, really dominant with the Dolphins that are just a lot of fun to watch as a team. They're really interesting. The quarterback situation has been interesting all season long. The defense has surprised a ton of people, and that's being led by none other than Emmanuel Ogbah. So we're going to listen to what he had to say. I threw in a question, too, about when he played with Kansas City. A lot of good stuff, so here he is.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll tell you, we got a nice guest this week for sure. We've been telling people all about this for the last hour. Emmanuel Ogbah, former All-American defensive player here, one of the best we've ever had up front for sure, and now in his 5th year in the NFL, which where has the time gone, Emmanuel? But down there in Miami, having a good time up till now. Good to talk to you again. We haven't talked in a while.
Yeah, how you doing? I hope you're doing good, man. And it's been a blessing, going so far.
Let's kind of concentrate on the good stuff going on right now. Miami has put itself and won 4 in a row, put itself in a position to be at least mentioned as a possible playoff team. And defensively, you've been right in the middle of all the good stuff. You got a couple of strip sacks in the last couple of games. You're kind of out there wheeling and dealing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, the coach just put me in the right position to make plays, and I just got to go out there and make those plays. And that's why I'm here.
Let's go in that direction. Is Flores' system, is it Boyer's system? Does it suit you more, or have they kind of built things around what you do?
It's a multiple front defense, so I could be inside, I could be outside, just play all around the defensive line, and also I move a lot, so that kind of helps me out, play to my advantage.
Kind of like we did here. I mean, you kind of moved around when you were here, and you were never seemingly, although I'm probably exaggerating, but it didn't seem to me you were ever in the same spot twice, which made it difficult to block you. But it just seems watching Miami a couple of times. I mean, you're playing loose, you're playing free, and really with a lot of energy.
Oh, yeah, they trust me. I trust them. Like, they put me in the right position and just let me use my talent and go to work.
You're on the different side of the ball, but what's Tua meant to this team? Because you got to have a spark on the other side as well.
Oh, yeah, Tua's mean a lot. I like to call him a natural-born leader. He just brings the guys together. I know he probably wasn't expecting to be able to start this early, but, he's taking it one step at a time. He's a very smart football player, and he just does things the right way.
Tell me about Flores, and I think I read early on you said you like playing for a guy like this, and he and now Boyer the same way, I guess, but they both came from a defensive position and defensive experience with the Patriots, and they had great success there. Tell me about what the situation's like now in Miami.
You always love defensive-minded coach because the defense is going to be great, so it's going to dial up a lot of good stunts and good plays for us to go out there and execute. That's the one thing I liked about Flores, and that's why I kind of wanted to come to Miami to play for him. But yeah, everything's been going good so far. We're taking it one game at a time, and we're not thinking about the playoffs or making it deep. We're just thinking about the Chargers next game.
You came from Kansas City, got a Super Bowl ring. Didn't play as many games as you wanted. I think you played 10. You had an injury there. But, man, what a ride that had to be all year long. That's a hell of a great franchise to play for.
Yeah. I mean, it was a blessing. I thought I was going to spend the rest of my career in Cleveland, but, stuff happens, and I got traded to Kansas City, which I was excited about. New opportunity for me, so I just went out there and gave it all I got. And unfortunately, I got hurt, but I'm just grateful to win the Super Bowl with them.
Hey, Emmanuel, Patrick Wheeler here. Tom, being nice here and let me butt in with a question, but big Chiefs guy here. So I wanted to ask you, too, on that subject, when you did play for Kansas City, you kind of got to fill in for Frank when he was out, too, and did a great job with that. But did you take anything from guys like Frank Clark, Chris Jones, maybe even the Honey Badger, all those guys that were there with you on that defense, take anything with you from them to Miami that you learned?
I mean, I took that winning mentality mindset with me, but I've always watched those guys. I've always watched Chris Jones. I trained with Chris Jones, so I've always watched his moves. I always watched Frank's moves. We all feel different. We all rush different. So his moves might not work for me, but it definitely works for him. And my moves might not work for him, but it definitely works for me. So I mean, those guys, I'll say we're brothers for life. We did a special thing by winning the Super Bowl.
How difficult was it to actually leave Kansas City? I know I read some comments where you tweeted out initially and thanked everybody in Kansas City. Emotionally, that had to be a tough leave, wasn't it?
It was definitely tough because I didn't want to leave. You just won a Super Bowl with them, so you tied there forever. But it's hard decisions to make. And I'm happy to be with Miami. They love me out here. I'm thankful, and I'm tired of moving. I don't want to move no more.
Hey, if you have to settle somewhere, Miami, Florida is a pretty good place to settle in. I would think that would be a nice choice. Let's go back to when you left Oklahoma State. You were drafted by Cleveland, and you mentioned that. One thing that you never did, and you see some players, we won't mention who they are, if Cleveland drafts and all of a sudden, I don't know if I want to go, they're not good, but that never at least publicly came up with you. You were fortunate, and you appreciated the fact that you were drafted in the second round.
Oh, yeah, I was just thankful that somebody would draft me, so I was just excited off of that. And also, Cleveland they'll always have a place in my heart. They gave me my first opportunity, to go out there and showcase my talents. And No, Miami is the one that got me.
You know, you look at, and we mentioned we're not going to harp on it because we don't want to jinx anything, but you've had more than your share of injuries that have cut seasons short. You're a tough guy, though, mentally. How did you stay strong mentally when we had games taken away from you for a couple of years?
It was definitely tough, you know, but that time away from football just helped me learn the game more, you know. Just I took it all in and I kind of understood the game, and you know, actually I'll say it's kind of a blessing in disguise. So actually, it just makes me want to take care of my body more now and just focus on my body. Like I spend a lot of money just taking care of my body, just to make sure I'm right. So.
You know,
it's a learning experience for me.
Oh, you bring up a good point. I mean, sometimes you could sit in your room and just pout, or you can actually look at the game from the sideline. Did you become smarter that way, seeing it from a different perspective because you didn't play?
Oh, yeah. I used to get mad just watching the game because I know what the DN is supposed to do from another team. So, so I mean, I definitely got smart. Well, my football IQ probably went up for sure, you know, during those times.
Well, you had a great start, no question. I think your numbers are 7 sacks and a couple of those strip sacks. You forced 3 fumbles in 8 games. I mean, you've been everywhere. What's the makeup of this defense this year with you on it? Is there enough experience on that club, or do you bring most of it in there?
I mean, I'm kind of like the oldest one in the room. But we have a lot of young guys, you know, they kind of look up to me. So, you know, I just got to set great examples for them, and just got to talk, communicate. You know, that's how we get the ball rolling.
Yeah, I would imagine if you were the kind that when you weren't on the field and you were wearing that ring around, I mean, that might get some more people's attention probably. But but at the same time, it's hard for me to believe. It seemed like you were just here, okay? And it shows how old I am. It seemed like you were still in Stillwater. To think that you're the old man in the room, that's hard for me to believe.
Yeah. I know. It's kind of weird, but it's year 5 for me. So some of those guys just year 2, year 1 for them. You know.
What kind of question do you get from the newcomers? I mean, is it a direct question, or is one that you can feel maybe they don't really know where I'm supposed to be, so you jump in and give them some advice, or do you wait for them to come to you?
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they ask me, like, what the play is, like, doing the play. Like, at practice sometimes when we're doing the games, and I kind of would just tell them, like, hey, you got to do this, do this. And also they call me and talk to me. If they don't understand why we do certain things, you know, I kind of guide them through it, you know, before practice, or I'll go out there and walk with them, teach them some moves and, you know, stuff that I've learned.
You know, you when you were here, and you had a nice career here, obviously an All-American, and you were on, I think you went to, I don't want to shortchange you, but I think you went to 3 different bowls. I want to say Cotton, Cactus, and of course the Sugar Bowl. Last year. You had some... You had some freedom to play here as well within the defensive structure. I asked you before we went on, not too many coaches still left, though, right, since you were here?
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, Coach Dunny, obviously.
Oh, yeah, obviously him, right, yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, not a lot left since I left.
You mentioned Clements. I mean, he was here, right?
Oh, yeah. Coach Clements, for sure, is still there. And, Coach Duffy's still there.
That's right. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, so.
You know, can you remember those years? I mean, again, you're in a different business now, so you're not sitting around every minute of the day saying, oh, man, I remember this game at Oklahoma State. I'm not saying that, but it does seem relatively short period of time that you were still here wearing an Oklahoma State uniform.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't. It feels like, it doesn't feel like forever ago. It feels like literally yesterday that I was just there. That's why when I watch some of the games, you know, it just kind of gives me like tears of joy just to see those guys balling. Well, the defense really balling, but you know, it's fun to watch.
We were talking again. Before we went on, you would love that defense now, boy. I mean, they get after people. That was your style of play.
Oh yeah, I love to hear that.
You keep in touch with Amen, obviously. Boy, he's playing so good now. So good.
Yeah, I'm proud of him. You know, he took a big step from last year. He just balling out. He became a leader for him, and he's just doing his job and just making plays here and there.
You don't get back here often, obviously. You have this other job, right, that you have to deal with other than Oklahoma State football. They expect you to show up for work and not be coming to Stillwater every day. I understand that. But when you get a chance, do you get back here often? And homecoming's not this year because of COVID, but I guess that's a good time to get back here on an open week probably.
Yeah, so I know last year during my bye week, I went out there during homecoming. This year, obviously, I can't go nowhere because we get tested every day because of COVID. But yeah, I try to catch games on TV, and when all this clears, then maybe I could come back soon.
Are you guys in a bubble? I mean, for lack of a better word, you say you get tested every day, so that's kind of a self-inflicted bubble. But what's it like? I mean, do you still have the freedom to get up and around as a team or an individual, or do you have to watch yourself?
I mean, you kind of have to watch yourself because you don't want to be the guy that puts the team at risk, or the guy that that gets it from doing some dumb stuff. So I think the guys kind of like just play safe and like just keep the crowd to a minimum, or like they don't go to overly populated restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of tough, but we have to do our part.
I would think it'd be hard for you not to do that. I mean, I would think people in Miami know who you are. You probably can't go in too many places if they don't know who you are. As a team, do you talk about that though? That hey, we don't want to have. We're doing okay. We just don't want to be bringing it back in here.
Yeah, it's like nobody wants to be the guy that just said, I caught COVID. Nah, they got to figure out where you got it from and all the other stuff. But we're all kind of playing it safe, because we know this season means a lot to us. So a lot of guys, they want to play and also make money for their families. So
sure.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just been a very, very different experience for sure.
I got to wonder, as a player, what it's like, certainly at home, but when you go on the road, you walk out on the field, and there might be just a few fans in the stands. Yeah. There might be some places with no fans in the stands. What's that do for you in terms of energy?
It feels like practice sometimes because it's like there's no fans in the stands. Because I feed off the crowd. That's how I get my stuff going. And but it's definitely different. It's something I have to adjust to. But it's getting better though. We getting rehab about 15,000 fans.
I think that's about right. Yeah. And, I imagine I made this comment. I think as the year goes on, you get used to 15,000 fans. But early on, I mean, to walk into a stadium like yours and look around and, there's somebody over here, there's somebody over there, and they're not making a whole lot of noise.
Yeah. I mean, you could hear some voices at our stadium for sure. So.
Good voices or voices on the field when there's some talking going on between the players. I guess you can.
Like when a big play happens.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I imagine you could hear some of the trash talking too. I guess if you really listen close enough, I guess you guys could. You might hear each other saying something one way or the other.
Yeah, for sure. If the TV didn't block it out with those big sounds, y'all probably hear a bunch of cussing.
Yeah. They probably don't get too close to the sideline in this day and age. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, tell us again how your life is going. I mean, you told me Miami's basically your second home. You like it there. You like the city. You like living there, and you obviously like the people you have to go to work with every day in terms of the coaches and players.
Yeah, I mean, Miami is, like I said, my second home. I come here every year to train, so it was kind of an easy transition for me when I came here. I just felt like home. And also, even though I'm by myself out here, but I still have family come visit. And obviously now with the COVID going on, and we gotta be safe. But I kind of just FaceTime them a lot, my family in Houston. just trying to keep up with them.
Everything there going well, I take it? Everybody is healthy and staying healthy?
Yeah, everybody's good. Thankful for that. And happy.
Well, I'm so happy you could take time. I know this is a work day for you guys. I mean, it's not like you're out there, going to the beach and laying around all day long. That's not what you're doing here. You're in a business. But I appreciate you joining us here on a Wednesday. And, you need to keep my brother in tow somehow. And don't let him get out of hand. I mean, he just...
I got you. Also, shout out to Chris and Tara.
Yeah, go ahead and shout out because they'll probably listen. I know Chris is probably listening for sure. I don't know if Tara's listening or not. But
he told me he would be. So
did he? Okay, so he'll be texting me saying, hey, I heard that. Anyway, I appreciate your time, buddy, and best of luck, continued luck, and we'll check in with you here later in the year, hopefully when we're talking about playoff time and all that. But keep it going. You sounds like it's going well.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, man. See ya.
All right, there's Emmanuel Ogbah. Really good stuff from him. And I know he's got to be in a much better mood around this time because the Dolphins are playing really good football in the NFL. They have a pretty intriguing matchup this weekend against the Chargers, who are a team that can put up a lot of points offensively, but my goodness, they keep finding ways to lose. And will the Dolphins take them down next? That's the question. I think it's a really fun game, one of the more intriguing football games in the NFL this Sunday. When we come back here on the Afternoon Sports Drive, I'm going to drop off my top 5 and my bottom 5 teams in the NFL before we get into tomorrow, and then tell you what I learned here today on the Afternoon Sports Drive. Coming up next. Welcome back, Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network. Patrick Wheeler on this Thursday. Rounding out the show, give me my NFL top 5, bottom 5 to get you into Thursday Night Football. Let's start with the top. The number 1 team in the NFL right now is the Kansas City Chiefs. It's true. I know the Steelers are undefeated, but Kansas City's offense is so much deeper. Patrick Mahomes, clearly, better than Big Ben, and I would put the Chiefs up against any team before I would the Steelers offensively. Not saying the Steelers' offense isn't good, because it is, and I think they're pretty deep at the wide receiver spot, but you're also looking at Big Ben where he is running into some health issues here again, possibly, and I think overall the defense is incredible. They have the upper hand on the Chiefs defensively, no doubt. But overall, this is a Chiefs team that can come in and put up 40 points and then just needs somewhat of a decent to average performance from their defense to still win a game. Steelers maybe not necessarily the case. So the Chiefs edge is the top team in the NFL right now. The Steelers are certainly number 2 right there. Again, the defense is incredible. Really, really tough. And I would not want to be anybody offensively playing against the Steelers. I think the Chiefs would maybe have the best chance, like I said there, but that still would not be an exciting or fun day for a Chiefs offensive player, I don't think. Number 3, the Saints. The Saints came in and just put it on the Bucs last Sunday night. Michael Thomas came back. Everybody's healthy. The defense looked really good. That was against a Bucs team that was rolling, so the Saints slot in as my number 3 spot, even with old man Drew Brees still at the helm. Number 4, the Packers. I believe in Aaron Rodgers to death. I think Devontae Adams is the best wide receiver in the NFL right now. And, they get their running backs back healthy. The defense is got some holes in it, but the Packers are still really good. They could be a Super Bowl team this year, I firmly believe. Would have loved to see them grab another piece of wide receiver before the trade deadline approached, or a defensive player, but they didn't really get that done. So we'll see, but I still think they're the 4th best team in the league with the offense they have. Aaron Rodgers continues to dominate. Number 5, the Seahawks. Their defense is atrocious. Don't get me wrong. Their defense is so bad. They're just lucky to have a guy by the name of Russell Wilson at the quarterback position who is good enough to get you wins with a really bad defense. The only problem is how long can he sustain that? This is a Seahawks team that I could see sputtering out before it's all said and done. simply because you're asking them to do so much offensively that Russell Wilson at times is going to be able to shoulder the load, but can he do it through the rest of the season into the postseason is a good question. So I like them at the number 5 team. Honorable mention, the Cardinals to me are an honorable mention. They found a way to lose last week against the Dolphins, part into not having a kicker that is consistent, so that's tough. But Kyler Murray surely is in the MVP conversation, should be for everybody. He's fantastic. The defense has shown promise at times, but offensively, with Kyler Murray doing what he does, they don't even really need a run game with him. Yeah, DeAndre Hopkins, Larry Fitzgerald still playing at a high level. I think they're really fun to watch overall, that Cardinals team with Cliff Kingsbury at the helm. So they're an honorable mention, as well as I'll honorable mention the Ravens, but as I detailed earlier, they've got plenty of issues right now offensively as well. Bottom 5, number 28 team. 28 ranked team in the NFL right now for me is the Dallas Cowboys. They have to be in the bottom 5. There's no end in sight for them with everything that's going on this year. So throw them in there. Look ahead till next year when they do get Dak back, and then we'll talk. Number 29, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They started off the season, and there was some promise with that one early win. Minshew Mania was going to be back. Last year they had to go to their back, or last week I should say, had to go to their backup, and they're just not a good team again. Back to the Jags being one of the worst teams in football. They come in at number 29 for me. Number 30, the Giants, the New York Giants. When Saquon went down, that was it. He was their offense. Daniel Jones is running out of time to prove that he's going to be the guy. Again, there have been flashes from him, but not enough to where Giants fans are sold, or the NFL sold for that matter. They're the 30th worst team. The 31st worst team in the NFL is the Washington football team. Just unbelievably bad. I'm really happy for Alex Smith getting the chance, but he's not going to be good enough to get it done. That defense is going to be good before it's all said and done with the youngsters they have. Chase Young is dominant. I can't wait to watch his progression in the NFL. And then the worst team, obviously, in the NFL is the New York Jets. I know they competed with the Patriots, but they are just so bad. I can see them going 0-16 this season. I really can. And I know that's their goal. They want to get Trevor Lawrence, and that's the best way to do it. Honorable mention for the worst teams in the NFL, the Patriots are there. I think they're knocking on the door with the worst teams in the NFL. They are just absolutely terrible this season all the way around. Coaching is the only thing that might save them, which I think it did against the Jets. And then the Texans probably too. I mean, I know Bill O'Brien's gone, but there's just no continuity on that offense. I like Deshaun Watson, but I think he made a mistake by signing an extension with that team. So there's your top 5, bottom 5. Top 5, Chiefs, Steelers, Saints, Packers, Seahawks. Bottom 5, Cowboys, Jags, Giants, Washington, and the Jets. Time to get to what I learned on this Thursday.
The day is coming to an end. Time to find out if these two got any smarter.
The question is, what did you learn?
Let's find out what the guys learned today on the Afternoon Sports Drive.
Well, I learned something today.
Yeah, I learned that Russell Westbrook is not happy. He apparently is requesting a trade from the Houston Rockets. And what made things even a little bit more awkward, at least social media-wise, yesterday was when the Houston Rockets decided to pop up and wish Russell Westbrook a happy birthday on Twitter after he basically ripped the entire organization and requested a trade. So I thought that was a little strange. It's kind of like the whole, I just broke up with my ex and we've been fighting and she said some bad things about me. I said some bad things about her, and the birthday rolls around and it's, oh, hey, happy birthday. It's kind of awkward, right? So I think it's a little awkward in Houston right now. Russell Westbrook is not going to be with the team. He's going to go somewhere else. I really love watching Russell Westbrook. Always have. I don't deny that he brings baggage with him wherever he goes. But I'm always going to fight for him in terms of people that like to badmouth Russell Westbrook. I think he did a lot of good things for the Oklahoma City Thunder when he was here, but obviously, and even with the Rockets, but there was a little bit more of a strange fit there for him simply because he was having to play with a guy like James Harden. I think Russell Westbrook wants his own team again, like he had control of the Thunder when KD left. I think that's what he wants, and he might just get that. But bottom line, the poster on Twitter for the Houston Rockets, a little awkward there, buddy. We're going to wish him happy birthday after he ripped us and everything. Okay, that's a little strange. This has been the Afternoon Sports Drive, Triple Play Sports Radio Network with Patrick Wheeler here on this Thursday. Tomorrow I'll be at the Hideaway. I'll get some good pizza, a lot of good stuff to come into tomorrow on the show, so be sure to join us then. Until then, everybody have a great rest of your Thursday.